Anxiety. One moment, everything feels perfectly fine and normal. Before you know it, things can turn dark, and then you can get to a point where you struggle to see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you're anything like me, you probably find yourself at certain moments thinking about the future, what may or may not happen, and all the other things that don't necessarily fall under things we can control. Recently, when I've been getting to this point and feeling like my mind's just racing at 1,000 miles an hour, I've done my very best to stop what I'm doing, take a break, and get outside to some type of nature like this. After all, sometimes a small reset goes a long way. Anxiety is not fun to deal with. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and by lately, I mean my entire life. It's just never really an easy thing to deal with. I think people feel anxious for so many different reasons in life. For me, what comes up to my anxiety is like when it comes to figuring out the direction of this channel, figuring out how my career and things are going to look later in my life, relationships and future and stuff like that. So a lot of times, like what I do is I find myself living in the future. When I'm bored, like a lot of us tend to doom scroll and go look at things online. Like I'll find myself standing in line somewhere and I'll start looking at Instagram. I'll look at Reddit or something else. And I start reading comments from people. One thing that I've noticed over the last few years, especially, is just how many people talk about how anxious they feel in their life. Now, there are different reasons than me, but it doesn't mean they're any less impactful than the things that affect me. The worst thing that's ever happened is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And so I think that whatever may make you feel anxious in your life is totally valid. But the real question comes up to like, what do you do about that? I don't have a perfect solution. I'm still working through these things. And I've actually asked myself the question so many times as to, can you ever really fully put this away where you never feel anxious about anything else in your life? I don't really know that you can. I think you can mitigate it. I think you can put systems in place and you can do things to help yourself kind of quell these things so you can keep moving forward in your life. It doesn't keep you stuck. But in terms of making it go away forever, I just don't know if that's really something that is an achievable goal. So I've stopped telling myself that that's what it is. Over the last few months or so, I've started to force myself to get out to places like this. And if you've watched some of my recent videos, you've seen that too. I just like to get outside where I can have some space, not be in those four corners of my apartment, be around a bird that just made that noise behind me in the water and stuff. All these things just make me feel calm and it kind of resets me. Now, going outside and doing these things is not always just going to solve all your life problems. If you're anxious about your promotion or a meeting you have coming up, or asking the person out that you like, or something else is going on in your life, just walking outside and standing next to some trees is not just going to change all your problems. But sometimes I think what it does is it allows you enough of a break to reset so that you can kind of just take a deep breath and look at your situation with a little bit more clarity. That's what's been helping me quite a bit. If you've never been to Arizona anywhere else like this, we're about a couple weeks away from it being like 110 degrees out here. It was already like 100 plus a couple weeks ago. And so I don't know how much longer I'll be able to get out here comfortably and be able to do things like this. I may just have to, for the summer, end up filming inside for the talking pieces or doing something else or changing my format up. Once again, leading me to more anxiety about my situation and things that are going on in my life. Now I could sit here and think about all this and stress myself out and say, how am I going to film? How am I going to do with the heat? Where am I going to go do things? How am I going to change my format? What am I going to do for my job, my life, my everything? But what is that going to do? It's going to overwhelm me. It's going to keep me stuck. If anything else, it might put me back in those four walls of my apartment, just kind of dwelling in things and think about how hard things are and the uncertainty that is my life and what's coming up later. Does that really help though? I used to tell myself for a long time that I felt like that comfortability of putting myself in a position like that would help, but at the end of the day, it never really did. So right now, I can control today. That's all I can do. I can control this moment right now, and I can decide to come out here somewhere and enjoy this nice weather and the clouds and stuff before things get bad. A couple weeks from now, when it's hot, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out. Because if I sit here and I live a couple weeks ahead of where I'm at right now, and that's the only thing I'm focusing on while I'm neglecting my present, how am I really living it all? There's always going to be stress. There's always going to be things that you're not sure of in your life, and that's part of life. So if you focus on living in the moment and caring about the things that you can control right now, that's all you can really do. I know it's easier said than done. I remember hearing this stuff for the first time when I was younger. Older people telling me this, sometimes it's my folks and other people and stuff telling me these things like, just worry about it now. You can't worry about the future. And I think sometimes it becomes so cliche because you hear this so much, you're like, you want to tell people, hey man, shut up. I don't want to hear about this. I need solutions for later. I don't want to hear about just don't think about it. Live in the present. But I think as you get older, you start to realize there's a lot of truth with that because look, man, life's short. You got to enjoy yourself and you got to do things that matter to you. And for me right now, I'm thinking about like, look, no matter how much I think about the next few weeks, I'm not gonna be able to change these things. So what's the point? If I sat here for the next 2-3 weeks, month, and thought about everything that I was or wasn't going to be doing later in my life,
how it's going to work, the things that could go wrong, the people that may or may not come in my life, if someone was going to ghost me, if I'm going to get this job, if I'm able to move to this place, save up this money or whatever else and stuff. How's that going to help me right now? I think a lot of times what we do is we look at the bigger picture, which is important for goal planning and stuff. But at the same time, sometimes we can look at this bigger picture and let so much of these pressures and these unknowns for our future come down back on us and push us down to the point where we feel like we're so stuck and kind of smothered that we don't do anything at all. And that's how I've been a lot of times in my life. So just like I've said, being able to get out here, have some peace and quiet, take a deep breath, and just maybe kind of think a little bit clearer has been something that's been helping me quite a bit in addition to other things I've done in my life. I don't have it right now, but usually I have a notebook with me or a pen. Anytime I just have some time to kind of sit down and do something, I will pull that out and I will start writing just whatever comes to my mind. Doesn't matter if I'm feeling sad, happy, scared, whatever. But I find that it helps to just get those thoughts out of a piece of paper. Not your phone, not a computer, a piece of paper and a pen, because that takes away the stimulus or the ability to have distractions from you. Put your phone down for 15, 20 minutes and just write out some stuff. It doesn't have to be organized. You're not turning this paper into a college professor that's going to grade it. Write out the sloppiest thoughts that you have in your head, whatever it is, just get it out there. And sometimes when you're able to do that, it gets it out of your head and onto paper. And then the funny thing is when you review these things and you review this stuff back, it usually doesn't sound as crazy as it probably sounds when it comes out of your mouth or when it just sits in your head. It's these small things that I think can help mitigate anxiety, but I don't think any of these things, like I said, are ever going to fully take it away. But I don't know if that's really the point, right? Sometimes to a certain extent, I feel like anxiety kind of keeps us on our toes when it's in a healthy balance. But if it gets to be too much, that's when we have to jump in there and do things to make sure that we protect ourselves, so that we're successful for our futures too. A lot of what gets to me is like when I mentioned earlier talking about this channel. You've probably seen some of the videos I've made. Like I'm in that part of YouTube where I'm like figuring it out. I'm figuring out, do I like to talk to the camera like this? Do I like to just do voiceovers? Do I want to go interview people and do stuff? Do I want to do something I haven't even tried yet? I don't know. It's all figuring it out. And for a long time, especially in these last few weeks when I took a little bit of a break here, I did that because I just honestly got so overwhelmed by the anxiety that I couldn't get to the point where I felt like I was healthy enough in a creative space to be able to put something out here that made sense. And while I'm still figuring these things out, I'm trying to take some of that pressure off myself and just get out here and just turn the camera on when I feel like I want to turn the camera on. Record when I feel like I want to record. And as things go on, I'll figure it out. But I'm not going to be able to come up with a whole strategy as to how I'm going to have a, successful million sub channel one day. I'm going to have an email marketing newsletter, merch, a Patreon, memberships, all this. I mean, I don't know all this stuff. This may work out. It may not. It may be something in between. I have no idea. But if I continue doing what I was doing and I was sitting in that spot of thinking about everything that could or could not happen in the future, that's all I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be sitting there thinking and I'm not going to be actually doing anything. So this is me out here trying to do something a little bit different, just to get outside and remind myself that sometimes it's the simplest things that go the furthest way, and it doesn't have to really overcomplicate something in your life. Do what you can today, handle what you can today, and tomorrow will thank you.
I'm going to leave you with one message, and that's simply that it's going to be okay. I know it's easy to sit there and dwell on the future and think about the things that may or may not happen, be down on yourself, and to really let these feelings of anxiousness just take over you. I get it. But at the end of the day, it always works out. It may not always make sense in the moment, but if you take any page out of my book, do your very best to get outside the nature or to do something to remove yourself from that environment that makes you kind of dwell on some of those thoughts. A little change goes a long way, and you'd be surprised what happens once you really get there. Hope this helps. Appreciate you rocking with me. Take care. I'll see you on the next one.